and it's a pleasure to have you join us. What really happened inside the terrorist camp where hundreds of women and children were held for months? How did innocent civilians survive with barely enough food to stay alive? And why are new questions emerging about what happened in the final hours before their release? These questions are dominating conversations after hundreds of former captives from Ngoshe community in Borno State began sharing shocking accounts of life inside a terrorist enclave. Their testimony paints a disturbing picture of hunger, sickness, death, fear, and survival against overwhelming odds. For 3 months, many of these women and children lived in conditions they say were almost impossible to endure. Abducted during a terrorist attack on Ngoshe in March 2026, they disappeared into remote areas controlled by insurgents. Families feared the worst. Communities prayed for their return. For weeks, little was known about their fate. Now that many of them are freed, their stories are revealing what life was really like behind the scenes. One of the most painful revelations concerns food. Several former captives described a daily struggle against hunger. According to them, the terrorists supply only guinea corn, leaving the women to prepare meals themselves. The food were rationed so severely that many captives survive on just one meal every day. Imagine eating once in the afternoon and then waiting until the following day before another meal arrived. For adults, that was difficult. For children, it was devastating. Former captive Halima Musa described how women cooked whatever food was provided, often without soup or additional nutrition. The captives said they had no choice but to endure the conditions because refusing to eat was not an option. Hunger became a constant companion throughout their captivity. Food was not the only challenge. The victims said they slept on bare ground on high mountain, where there was no proper shelters, no mattresses, and little protection from harsh weather conditions. Access to water was limited, forcing many to survive under extremely difficult circumstances. Then came sickness. According to several of the released victims, children began falling ill during captivity. Medical care was visually non-existent. Parents watched helplessly as their children grew weaker. The most heartbreaking part of their testimonies involves the death of 6 children. The former captives say 2 boys and 4 girls died after becoming sick while in captivity. For parents already struggling with fear and uncertainty, the loss of children became an unbearable tragedy. Yet the horror did not stop there. Some former captives have made troubling allegations regarding teenage boys who were being held alongside them. According to their accounts, shortly before the group's release, terrorists separated several boys between the ages of 13 and 17 from the larger group. The freed captives claimed that approximately 13 teenage boys were retained, while the women and younger children were released. Some believe the teenagers may have been selected to serve as fighters. If true, the allegations would raise fresh concerns about the recruitment of minors by terrorist organizations operating in the region. Authorities have not publicly confirmed these claims, but the testimonies have intensified concerns among families and community leaders. Another mystery surrounds the circumstances of their eventual release. Several victims said they did not witness any direct military confrontation before regaining their freedom. According to their accounts, the terrorists simply escorted them down from the mountain, traveling on motorcycles while the captives walked. At a certain point, the armed men reportedly left them alone, allowing them to continue towards security personnel. This version of events has generated fresh debates because it differs from the image many people associate with hostage rescues. Some of the released captives said they never saw soldiers during the actual process that led to their freedom. At the same time, another detail from their testimonies has attracted significant attention. Multiple former captives claim they saw numerous Ghana must-go bags arrive at the terrorist camp less than 24 hours before their release. According to their accounts, motorcycles transported several large bags to the mountain location. The victims insisted they do not know what was inside the bags. Some estimated that between 7 and 9 bags were delivered. Others claimed it was the first time they had seen such a large delivery during their period of captivity. Naturally, these claims are false speculation. Were the bags carrying supplies? Was it carrying food, equipment, or something else entirely? The Borno state government has firmly rejected suggestions that ransom payments were made to secure the captives' freedom. The State Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Usman Tar, dismissed such claims and insisted that the operation was the result of military action supported by intelligence gathering. According to the commissioner, there was no ransom payment. He maintained that security forces, working alongside intelligence agencies, were responsible for securing the release of the captives. The disagreement between official accounts and some of the testimonies provided by former captives is likely to remain a topic of public discussion. Meanwhile, Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum visited the victims and praised the efforts of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the military, intelligence agencies, vigilantes, forest guards, hunters, and members of the Civilian Joint Task Force. The governor revealed that hundreds of adopted residents have now regained their freedom and pledged continued support for affected communities. Relief materials, medical assistance, and psychosocial supports are already being provided to the survivors as they begin the difficult process of rebuilding their lives. Yet, even as one chapter closes, another painful story continues. 42 school children adopted from Musa community in Akira Uba local government area remain in captivity. Community leaders say they have not received any communication from the kidnappers. Families remain trapped in uncertainty as they wait for news about the fate of their children. The contrast is striking. Hundreds of captives are finally returning home, while dozens of families continue living with fear and unanswered questions. The story emerging from Ngoshe offers a rare glimpse into life inside terrorist captivity. They reveal not only the physical suffering endured by victims, but also the emotional scars left behind. Hunger, sickness, death, separation from loved ones, and months of uncertainty have left deep wounds that may take years to heal. As Nigeria continue their battle against terrorism and kidnapping, these testimonies serve as a powerful reminder of the human cost of insecurity. Behind every statistics is a family. Behind every rescue is a story of survival. And behind every release is a painful journey that few can truly imagine. For the survivors of Ngoshe, freedom has finally arrived, but the memories of what they endured may remain with them forever. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. We read and value your opinions. If you enjoy our coverage, subscribe for more updates. I am Cassie Tony, and many thanks for watching.